Uploading.
Thank you, Captain Pike.
If not for your weakness, we would have never known what easy targets your Federation would be.
Goodbye.
Starfleet has always been diverse, if not bipolar. Since the Federation's inception, one of the ideals was the incessant need to search out for radical peace, even at the expense of its own citizens. This ideology would permeate into the Federation's Starfleet and is seen throughout the generations. What makes Starfleet bipolar is that there was another ideal. This one was a more militaristic belief, one that was okay with war if they had to. They of course sued for peace, but weren't afraid of using weapons and killing people. The natural consequence of these competing dogmas leads to two different factions fostering within the Federation and Starfleet. There would be those that believed military elements had to exist to keep everyone safe, and then those that believed Starfleet was primarily a scientific outfit that sued for peace no matter what, even if it gave the enemy an edge. The internal struggle for the soul of the Federation was long and arduous, ultimately culminating in the Federation's Golden Age, where it would seem that conflict was the minor purview of a captain.
I think it's a waste of effort to test our combat skills. It's a minor province in the makeup of a starship captain.
Hey guys, I'm going to make this really brief because I know you like watching the video. I need your help. If you'd like to get special access to videos that I'm coming out with, as well as help out the channel, please consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/Lore Reloaded. If you don't like Patreon, look in the bottom below. You can see memberships. Become a member. You'll get the same exact access just through YouTube. Keeping it quick and simple. Let's get back to it. The dream would be crushed by the Borg Collective and Dominion at a later point, but I've already went over that, and while I need to do an updated essay on it, that's not what we're doing today.
Did it ever occur to you that sometimes you can't avoid a fight? If you had just chased that Romulan ship from the get-go and taken it out, maybe none of this would have happened. You're a good captain, Jim Kirk.
Right now I want to talk about how the militaristic elements, well, they lost the culture war. They lost the fight for the soul of the Federation in the 23rd century. Now, my focus will mainly be on Pike during this war of wits, but it would be unfair to say that he is the sole reason that the Federation moved to being peaceniks, to a peace in our time mentality. The root of radical peace grew from the very birth of the United Federation of Planets itself. I've stated that a lot. As a primer, the Coalition of Planets, which is the Federation's precursor, was an alliance of both trade and military defense. The Federation was birthed as a hope to prevent the need for military engagements, in the future or otherwise. I honestly don't think it's any coincidence that the Vulcans, who loved to keep control and hated fighting unless they were the ones doing the fighting, joined as a founding member with undue sway on the United Earth, giving them at least a 50% vote in the organization's infancy. Now, there were militaristic elements like that of the United Earth's Makos and even the militaries from the Tellarites, Andorians, and yes, Vulcans. They would also leave their influence, don't misunderstand, but ultimately, every one of them was absorbed into Starfleet security. Military officers would either be dismissed from service and not chosen, or placed within Starfleet security itself. But with all of this, we would see the molding of one Christopher Pike, a charismatic Christian captain that was more than willing to sacrifice himself to save others. I have, for a long time, stated that Picard was a proto-Starfleet officer, the best of the best that the United Earth could offer. He was not only the best of humanity, but the best of Starfleet and the best of the Federation. Christopher Pike is a more modern version of him, which is ironic. Well, it's ironic given when we see the characters in real time versus when they are supposed to be on the Star Trek timeline. Like Picard, Christopher would have a lot of sway over his officers, and the trials and tribulations that they went through would forge all of them.
You are very important to me, as are you to me, Captain. Chris.
They would see, in the prime timeline, the virtues of Christopher Pike's radical peace ideology, and the messaging would consistently be that the Federation's initial virtues would almost always work, if not work every time. I think that Christopher's mentality is best seen in the Strange New Worlds episode, A Quality of Mercy. In this, Pike is given similar options that Captain Kirk would be in the Prime timeline, but Chris's radical peace results in a war that would last well into the 24th century, with thousands upon thousands upon thousands dead. And it's with Pike that I think a lot of the 24th century woes would probably culminate. You see, Christopher himself isn't the problem. Christopher would, I want to say indoctrinate, but we'll go with inspire other officers to continue with his beliefs. Chief among them would be one Spock. It would be Spock that ensured the dismantling of the military aspects of Starfleet, which in turn would leave a weakened military force to fight the Klingon raids and the Cardassians during the border wars. People who didn't have to die probably did. It would also cement a mentality that officers would consider fighting to be, well, again, a minor purview. And they would be given the most prestigious and important positions, even put as command staff on the flagship of the Federation. The Golden Age was created and sustained by these officers, but the problem is, thanks to Strange New Worlds, they finally admitted that this mentality and the Golden Age will get people killed. Captain Pike's way of thinking would result in the devastation that has been discussed, and after the Dominion War, Starfleet would shift into a more militarized state, and darker elements, like actually seeing crime on United Earth, would exist. In essence, we would see a dystopian and more realistic future because of Christopher Pike and Spock. Had they been more realistic, maybe it would have been a better outcome. However, I recognize how contentious all of this is, because internally, we all want Pike's ideology to prosper. We all want him to be right. We want a bright future where everything is great and works out. It just doesn't. Even when they are trying to write that it does. I love that both on Reddit and in other areas, I have gotten a lot of hell for being so dystopian with my Trek. But Disco Era Trek, Kurtzman Trek, proves everything I've ever said, and it's loved by the very people that get upset at my videos. It's just chef's kiss. But the question really is twofold here. Did Christopher Pike mentor Spock and other officers in a way that led to the Golden Age and ultimately the destruction of what the Federation stood for? Or was it always going to be that way? You guys let me know. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.